What's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to Season 2 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. This is episode 81. It is so frustrating when you post something on social media only to later see 11 people reached and 0 engagements. Like, how's your marketing ever going to work if nobody even gets to see what you post? Social media being what it is, social media. My guest on today's show and I have never actually met, but due to a mutual group of friends and our online network, we have the opportunity to connect, learn from, and add value for one another. He is the founder of 5 Minute Social Media, where he's recently empowered over 400,000 people around the world to do their own social media marketing. And you know how much I preach that you need to be involved on social media before you try spending any money on it. He lives in Seattle, where he spends his time with his wife and 2 tiny humans, and he is on a quest to prove that Diet Coke is actually good for him. He says it's time to stop trying to beat the algorithm, and instead, we want to romance the algorithm. So today, he's going to tell us how to do that by sharing the 3 types of content that social media algorithms love in order to help us make reaching people on social media 100 times easier. On this episode of the Mindshare Podcast, I am joined by social media coach and speaker, Jerry Potter. Jerry, welcome to the show.
Cheers with my Diet Coke in hand. Hi, David. How are you?
Oh, man, I love it, buddy. I think that's absolutely amazing, man. That's quite impressive. So what's the deal with the Diet Coke?
Oh, I just know it's bad for me. I was once in a room with TV Dr. Oz, and he shamed me for it. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to drink it anymore, but it's my vice. You know, there are worse things in the world out there.
You know what? There certainly are, man. So to each their own, buddy. I mean, I'd preach drink a lot of water. I've got a steady diet of water, coffee, and Heineken. So, you know, we all do our thing, right?
Right.
But here's the deal, man. So on this show, we do everything we can to provide useful marketing sales strategies that anyone can implement to build mindshare. And I, for one, and not that this is like some big revelation or anything, but I, for one, believe that everything on social media is absolutely free. I mean, it's free to join, it's free to connect, it's free to become friends with each other, it's free to comment and even steal each other's content. I mean, it is what it is. It's social.
Right.
Yes, you can pay for it, but I strongly believe that unless you have your organic game on point, that you are posting and that you are engaging on your own consistently, that spending money on social media will prove very little ROI. I mean, this is kind of like throwing flyers in the mail or posting billboards up around the city. No one really knows you. So it's like, why do you think they're just going to work with you? Now, everyone wants to leverage social media, and I agree everyone should, but spending money to make it work seems like a total cop-out because it just doesn't work like that. And this whole idea of having a personal page and a business page, it is overwhelming to a lot of people. So many people don't even know where they should be posting, which content they should be posting. And it's, you know, you really hit it home with that idea about, you know, posting something and getting like 0 anything out of it. Like exactly that. It often feels like, why did I even bother spending the time? Right. So, I mean, teach us, please. You know, what's the deal with posting something and then not getting any traction? Was it like, was it what I posted or is this an algorithm thing?
It was both. And I do want to also touch on something you said during the intro, you know, where you said that you believe that you should be involved with your own social media. And that's kind of my mission in the world is, and I've worked with a lot of real estate agents and mortgage brokers, and a lot of them are just like, just tell me how to get this off my plate. And it's like, okay, well, you can pay somebody and you probably won't get anything from it necessarily. As you said, it's about relationship building and being social. And that's so important. But the other piece of this is when you learn how to do it yourself and you understand it, you no longer have to hire an agency, or you don't have to, you know, spend a bunch of money on something and you don't even know if it's working. You're kind of like, I guess it's reaching more people, but I can't tell if this is working or not. When you understand it, then you know if it's working. And even if you don't do a lot of the work anymore, you can outsource it to an assistant or someone that works for your company that you trust. And it's way cheaper that way too, because you're no longer hiring the expert. You are the expert for your own social media, and they are just putting things into motion.
And that's it, man. Like, I think that everybody just thinks like, hey, I'm going to go hire somebody to do it for me because I just don't have the time and I don't really know what's going on. And there's the cop out.
Yeah. And we do have time once it starts working. You know, if you find that all of a sudden you get 3 closings a month from a conversation that started on Facebook, man, it's amazing how fast the time opens up for Facebook, right? But as an agent, I know that it's a struggle because we all have this fear of missing out. I did almost get into real estate 5 years ago because of the opportunity that I saw for agents on social media. I was like, maybe this could be a thing. I could, create content and have conversations and then have these massive, closings on the side. But I know there's a lot more to it than that. But when you are, when every transaction, every lead is potentially thousands of dollars, what I see a lot of agents doing is instead of really focusing on quality and building relationships and posting quality things, they just kind of spray stuff everywhere and then none of it works. And the analogy that I always like to talk about is if I have 3 plants in front of me and each one needs a gallon of water a week. Now of course, in this scenario, that each plant is a social network. So let's say one's Facebook plant, one's my Instagram plant, one's my LinkedIn plant. And each one needs a gallon a week. But my limited time, or in this case, the resource of water, you only have 1 gallon a week. So you pour 1/3 of a gallon on each plant. And what happens? They all die. And so this is and I know it's crazy to think, because if you are, if you went, okay, I'm only going to focus on LinkedIn, or even just, I'm only going to focus on LinkedIn and Instagram. And you're like, what about that lead I got in 2017 from Twitter? I don't want to miss that lead. It's because each lead is so valuable in real estate, and that's what makes it hard. But if you are the best agent in your market on Instagram, your business will grow faster than if you're lost in a sea of agents, across all of these different platforms. And that, I think, is the first key to having success. Is you got to focus on quality over quantity. And that means that you're going to have to narrow your focus. And sometimes it means, sort of stepping away from some of the other social networks, at least temporarily.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you about that. And forgive me, I like to write some notes because, there's a lot of good stuff already been said here. Should we be focused then? Like if I look and I say, and I'll talk from a personal perspective, because I know there's a lot of people listening to this right now that go, well, I've got this and I've got that. So I want to kind of really bring this to life and hit home with what you just said. I've got LinkedIn,
right?
I've got Instagram. I post on Instagram regularly. I post on LinkedIn regularly. My stories, I post like an animal on my stories for Insta, which is connected to my Facebook. I've got my Facebook personal timeline. I've got my Facebook business page. We've got our Mindshare 101 private community with the Mindshare Masters where I'm posting. And that is like that. That's my, I try to give that all my TLC I possibly can every single day. That's where I'm putting all my efforts. But I've got a number of these different platforms. Now for me, because I've been doing this for a number of years, probably, I really have gotten my content to a point where it's never easy. It's always something where you got to really think it through, do your research, understand what it is you're trying to teach, why are you teaching it, what relevance does it have to your audience. It's a lot to tackle.
Yeah.
Now I listen to what you just said about, if you look at Instagram, maybe leverage Instagram if that's like your spot. Are we suggesting that we shouldn't be going after every platform? Because I've also said to people, if your audience is there, you should find a way to be there.
Here's the thing, though. Before somebody is going to sign on the dotted line with you for you to handle a massive transaction for them, you have to have a relationship. And so when you are spreading yourself out, and it might be different for you, David, you're kind of more like me, where a major part of what you do is content creation.
Yeah.
But for a lot of agents, they're also doing showings and open houses and listing appointments and, paperwork and, all of these other things that they have to do. And so, they don't have 25 hours a week necessarily to create content. And that's why I say to focus. And if you really think about it, sometimes there's actually an agent that just joined my course. I teach a course where we essentially I teach you my system for building a social media marketing plan for your business, as opposed to adopting what somebody else is doing in their business. Because it's all, we're all different in terms of our market. Our personality is part of it. If one person's like, yeah, I built my business on Facebook Live, and somebody else is like, I hate the way I look on camera. That's not your plan, right? Right. Or one person has kids and they can't do some things, another person doesn't. So I teach how to build their own plan. But there is an agent, that just started, and she came in and she was saying the same thing. And she was like, yeah, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter. And I started a TikTok account and I have a YouTube channel. And what happens is, instead of taking the time to build relationships, because this is what it's all about, is you need to build these relationships.
Thank you. We can end the episode right now. I mean, you just dropped the mic. No, I'm
joking. She's attaching all of it was a great conversation we had the other day, but she's just doing all she can do to keep up on all of these different platforms. And even if you have a system like you do, David, you're still not going as deep, and you're not taking the time to build the relationships. And it's not just about posting either. When you're relationship building, you have to do the other piece of social media, which is the outward engagement. You can't just post and wait for people to come to you. You got to go start the conversations, comment on their content, reach out to them via private message, just like old school you would with your Rolodex. And on Mondays, you'd call everybody A through H, or whatever it was. Now you can do that on social media, except you get to do it in your pajama pants if you want, which is awesome.
We talk about this a lot in our group, but we talk about engagement, right? And I mean, I challenge my Mindshare Master. I challenge everybody to just engage more every day. And we know that people have a fear around, oh my God, I don't know what to post, because what are people going to think? So they don't post. But then people have a fear as well of just clicking like. And so to those people, it's the simple thing of, hey, listen, I'm going to challenge you to just literally click like. And then as you're doing that more, you start to get more comfortable and you start to ingrain it. Now, speaking to somebody the other day, she says, I'm really working on my engagement. I said, well, what do you mean by that? She says, well, I'm really trying to make sure that, I'm posting stuff on my page and my timeline. And, if somebody comments, I'm like answering and commenting back. So yeah, but what are you doing to engage with other people's posts? And that's to what you just said of that idea of, if you want social to work, it's not just about what you post, but it's about going and showing other people love.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And not only does that help build those relationships, but if you engage with their posts, they're more likely to see your posts in the feed as well. And so, and let's talk about engagement, because and let's dive into
because again, I'm posting something, I get no engagement to exactly what you started with, right? 11 reactions, 0 people reach, or whatever.
Right.
Why? What
hurts?
The deal?
Yeah. Well, so I'll tell you up front, the average reach of a Facebook business page is about 1%. So that means if you have 500 people following you and you put something up, an average of 5 people will see it. So already with Facebook business pages, you're kind of, shooting yourself in the, it's like, okay, well, that barely seems worth it. But there are also a lot of dead pages that get less than that, or poorly run pages. So you can have more than that. It just takes work. Personal profiles get a lot more engagement. Instagram generally, all the other platforms, you can get more good organic engagement. But Facebook business pages are just a tough place for that. But let's talk a bit about the algorithms. And this is kind of, the algorithm is kind of become a dirty word, right? And it sort of became the reason for all our problems a few years ago, especially if you were on Facebook when business pages had lots of free reach. And then they changed the algorithm, which was January 2018. That was some people called it the day Facebook died. And what happened was they basically tried to keep people on Facebook longer because people were not spending time on Facebook. That's why the change was there. So what I want to start with is just saying you can't try and beat the algorithm. You can't hack the algorithm. You have to romance the algorithm. And by that, I mean, you either have to work with it and create content for it, or you might as well just not even bother, and you can just have people leave reviews on your page and move on. And the stuff we know about algorithms applies to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, everywhere. Like when you watch a video on YouTube and at the end, they're like, here's 17 other videos we think you'll might like. The videos you see are different than the videos I see. Those are handpicked by YouTube's algorithm for videos that they think you'll like. And they're pretty good at it. Occasionally there might be something random, like, what, I'm looking for marketing advice. Why am I seeing this cat video? Well, odds are you watched a cat video at some point.
Those
and so
darn cat videos.
YouTube knows, they know. And so
are all the algorithms, and maybe silly question here, are they all the same because we bring up the Instas and the YouTubes and the Facebooks? Different algorithms, obviously.
They're all the same because they all have the same goal. They are different on the back end.
Yeah.
There are nuances. There are little tiny things. But, I don't want anyone to walk away from this today with a lesson about ones and zeros. This is not about ones and zeros. This is about human behavior. And the goal of the social media algorithms for all of them is to keep people on the platform longer. That's all they want. Facebook wants someone to keep scrolling mindlessly. They want YouTube. They want you to keep watching more and more videos. And that's all they're going for. And so this idea that, if it wasn't for the algorithm, I'd be a millionaire by now. Or, man, if Facebook would just show people my content, I would be so much better off in business. But the truth of the matter is, people don't like your content, and that's why they're not showing it. And I know that's hard to hear, especially if you put a lot of time and energy into it. But the way the algorithm works, let me talk through it this way.
Yeah. Go for it.
The way the algorithm works in the simplest form, and I like to talk about what happens when you put something up. And this kind of applies again to any platform. So when you post something on Facebook or Instagram, your post's first hour is really important, because the first thing it's going to do is they're going to show it to people who recently engaged with you. So if I follow you, David, and I'm constantly commenting on your posts, odds are if you've put something up and I'm on Facebook, it's going to show up in my feed within the next 60 seconds, potentially, if I keep scrolling. So they're showing it to your biggest fans, your most loyal people, whether that's somebody who follows you, a client, or your mom. And that's who they're going to show it to first. And if those people engage with it, then they'll show it to more people. But if those people don't engage with it, your post usually dies. And that's when you see that 11 people reached 0 engagements. Essentially, the algorithm showed your stuff to your biggest fans, essentially. Right. Hey, these people love David. They comment on his stuff all the time. They private message. They visit his website. If he's got tracking there, they love David, but they didn't like this post. If they didn't even like it, why would anybody else like it? Now, the opposite, though,
makes sense,
is when you put something up and they show it to those immediate people and a lot of them engage, then they'll show it to more people. Right. And those people engage, they'll show it to more and more. And the best demonstration of this is if you've ever seen somebody on Facebook that you never see them on Facebook. They don't come up in your feed. For all you know, they, moved away, died, whatever. And all of a sudden they pop up in your feed again and you're like, haven't seen them in a while. And if you look, the post usually has a ton of engagement, and it's usually like a major life announcement, engagement, having a baby, new job, got married, those kind of things. And what happened was, David had this major life event and they showed it to his biggest fans, the people that engaged the most, and they all liked it and commented. So they showed it to a few more and a few more. And then eventually it got out to you, who you don't care about David anymore for whatever reason, or you haven't engaged with David, because they go, hey, literally everybody else liked this. We thought you might like it too. So that's just kind of the demonstration of how it works. But the key is getting people to engage. And, you touched on, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to get people to engage. And so the basics of engagement is, you have to make it the goal of almost every post in some way. You have to kind of have it as part of your goal to get them to share, to comment, to click, to hit like, love, something like that. And because if they don't do that, then your post dies, because Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn goes, oh, nobody's engaging. And it's just
now
gone.
At the same time too, with all of this engagement, is that why, we can post something 4 days ago and still be getting notifications today? Because it's one of those posts that just seems to have caught its wave and it just keeps getting shared out there.
Yeah, to the point where we are tired of seeing it, right?
Yeah.
You're like, yes, I know. I mean, if it's your post, sometimes it feels good. It's like, wow, people are still, engaging. I had an unfortunate incident last week where my 6-year-old fell and broke his arm. And so, and I'd posted about it, and, the comments were coming in for days and days. And that was one of those sort of falls into that major life event category. And, it was, when did it happen? It happened from where we are today. It was 9 days ago. And yesterday people were still commenting on it, because it kind of had that thing where people kept coming back. People kept coming back and saying, hey, how's he doing now? Yeah. So the post stayed alive. You'll see that in Facebook group posts a lot. If you comment on a Facebook, this is when I get irritated, is I comment on a Facebook group post sometimes, and then the conversation continues. It's not my post. People keep commenting, and they'll keep shoving it in my feed. And I'm like, I already said my thing. I don't need to, I don't need to see this anymore. But in the algorithm's mind, it's like, man, people love this post. Look at the new stuff that's on it.
Right. So now you talked about, okay, so from, first of all, from an aspect of, is there money to be made from social media if it's done right? And then do I need to spend money to make money? Or is this more about, again, as we were just getting into there, the type of content you're putting out there? Because if you focus on putting out the right type of content, which I want to get to, do I need to spend any money at all?
You don't, but here's how I like to think of it.
Okay.
If you look at, so let's say you decided you're going to build on your Facebook business page. That's going to be your brand. And you want to reach people. Well, the organic reach is really poor on there.
Right.
So what I like to recommend is consider spending a little money if you're going to do a Facebook business page. So think of it this way. The strategy for reaching more people on a Facebook business page is, I just post twice a day so I can reach as many people as possible, right? Well, if you get to the end of the week, you posted 14 times. How many of those posts were good? I mean, like really good. Mm-hmm. And odds are, maybe 3 of them were if you had a good week. So imagine taking the time that you spent and the energy to create 14 posts and just create like one really good post. And then you can put $1 a day behind it on Facebook. And so you spend $7 of the week. And I think for most of us, $7 is more valuable than the time it took to create 13 more posts, for example.
Mm-hmm. So create that one post. And when you say put $1 behind it, you're talking like boost, not sponsor.
Yeah.
Like not create an ad, just boost the post.
Boosting is the simple way to advertise. I know that, you and I obviously both know Dustin Brome and, and he's one of the guys that says never boost.
Yeah.
And he and I have had this conversation. And if we got into a debate about it, we would come to the same conclusion. Boosting can be very powerful if you do it in the right way. Okay. But what happens is people go, I'm going to boost and I'm going to throw $40 behind it and with no plan and it doesn't work. And so
what's the right way? Tell me about that from a boost for a second.
Okay. Well, then now we got to step up. Now we got to step back, go back a step.
Okay.
Here.
No, sorry. I want to keep going down the content page then on that, because to me, it's important. I want to find out, you talk about the 3 types of content that, the social media algorithms love. And I think we were going down that road. So forgive me. Don't let me take you off of that one.
Okay, no worries. Like I said, I'm happy. Before we started, I was like, "Hey, whatever you want to talk about, we can go."
Buddy, I'm jumping around, man. I could probably burn your ears off for the next number of hours, and I'm sure everybody listening would stay tuned because this is some good stuff, because everybody's trying to figure this part out.
Yeah. So there are 3 types of content that perform the best on social media, and these are the 3 types of content that get shared the most. And when we talk about engagement on social media, you need the engagement so that your content will reach more people, especially for free. And so the basic engagement is just somebody clicking like. It means a little bit. It doesn't mean a ton. But if you get a lot of likes, that can matter. Yep. The other reactions, like on Facebook and LinkedIn, where you can have, like on LinkedIn, you can do, the applause. Yep. On Facebook, you have love, haha. Those carry a little more weight because they take slightly more effort, because you got to hold your mouse down. Which sounds crazy,
but that's what I've been trying to tell people. Is like when you get really brave, move from like to love.
Right, yeah.
And everybody's like, what? That's like, I got to be brave for that? I'm like,
if anyone ever looked through my history, they'd be like, you love everything. And I'm like, I'm a positive guy. I do love a lot of things,
That's good.
Those are good. And then the comments mean more, but the ultimate in engagement is shares. Shares mean somebody liked your content so much that not only did they like it, they said, hey, I want my people to see this. And that includes if they share it to their feed or to their story, or even if they private message it to somebody. That's a powerful signal to the algorithm, to the numbers and zeros that, the computer programmers are doing in Northern California or whatever, wherever they are for these, that is like, wow. I like to call it, when in my analogy of romancing the algorithm, I like to call shares literally the engagement of engagement. Like you are proposing marriage if you're romancing the algorithm, because that's how powerful it is. Okay. And so these are the 3 types of content that get shared on social media, but they also get comments and likes and things like that. So the first one is utility content. This is helpful content, life hacks. These are, if we find something useful or helpful, we assume our friends and family might find it useful or helpful too. So that gets shared a lot. The second one is entertaining content, and entertaining content makes us feel a certain way, usually happy or entertained or amused or whatever. And we want others to feel that way too. And again, when stuff gets shared, that's when your reach really explodes. And then the third type is inspirational content. If a piece of content inspires us, we want to inspire others too. So those are kind of the three main types of content that work really well. But I want to give you one more thing that is, I think, really important, because when you look at those, let's say you're putting up a listing for a house. You're like, all right, how can I make this utility? You could do it, but you might rack your brain doing it. So here is the biggest thing that I think will help you, and this can be a takeaway that you can implement literally later today, is when you are creating a post, don't think about what you want to say. Don't think about what you want to show. Think about how you want the person to feel. If you've ever heard the phrase, people won't remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. This applies to social media because emotion is strong, emotion is memorable, and emotion is the thing that essentially gets us to take action, including commenting, liking, sharing. And so feeling is everything. And if you looked back at your own history of what you engaged with, it was probably all things that made you feel something. And feeling can be made you happy, made you laugh, made you inspired. Obviously, inspirational content, was there. Made you feel empowered, made you feel patriotic, made you angry, made you sad. Those are all legitimate emotions. I will say people are much more likely to share content that makes them feel a positive emotion than a negative emotion. And most of us aren't sitting around going, wow, this made me angry. Let me make other people angry now too. Right?
Now, I want to tap into this, forgive me for a moment here. And for anybody who's heard me talk about the 3 levels of the brain, and when we get into the neuromarketing of it all, the limbic system is that middle part of our brain. And we've talked about, wanted to get into the deepest part of the brain being the reptilian brain, the instinctive brain, which is the part of the brain that actually makes decisions. Now, what Jerry's talking about right now is actually digging into that middle part. You're trying to pull on people's emotions, on those heartstrings. And so when we talk about, again, the concept around building mind share, it's not just the physical that's out there, but it's starting to get down deeper into the brain. And now you are that much closer to occupying that tiny little space on people's minds. So again, from a mind share building perspective, this right here, talking about emotions and the way people feel, that is powerful right there.
Yeah, without question. And, I love all the stuff that you do about the science of the brain because it makes a big difference. And I've been a psychology geek since high school. So I love that stuff. And, it's funny. One of the stereotypes about social media is it changes all the time. But 95% of the things that change on a daily basis don't matter in 6 months. I got approached about writing a book last year by a company, not like a, hey, here's a publishing deal. It was more of a, hey, pay us money, we'll help you publish a book. And it got me thinking. And my first thought was, how could I ever write a book? Social media changes all the time. And it was this great eye-opening moment for me because I realized that a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about now is the same stuff that I was talking about 5 years ago because it's human psychology based.
But you know what's even better about that too is the fact that when we really look at this entire, especially the industry, we're out there talking to with the real estate industry, much of that has been relationship, and that hasn't changed forever.
Nope.
And so now the influx of all this tech and the social media, the reality is you just have another tool to be able to build relationships.
Without question.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah, no. And you can build more relationships. You can build faster relationships. I always call video, especially live video, the great trust accelerator. You can literally reach your clients and potential clients from a device that's in your pocket on live video. And it's really hard to fake it on live video. You just have to be you. And people feel that trust. Another thing too, and I don't know if you've seen this study, David, but there was a study about the proximity of our people. And so when we think about our people, our community, we have anyone who is within 4 feet of us, we consider a close friend or family member. And then we have the people that are 4 to 10 feet away that are kind of our acquaintances and things like that. And then people that are more than 10 feet away are kind of the rest of the world. And when somebody who you consider a 10 feet and away person comes into your 4-foot radius, it almost makes us uncomfortable. Like, oh, hey, what are you doing there, right? But with video and with the internet, right now you have the ability to go live and get within 4 feet of your person without making them uncomfortable. because you're there, you're talking right into their screen that they're holding in their hand. And psychologically, that makes people more comfortable with you faster. And that's something you couldn't do, 20 years ago, obviously.
Right. So are we suggesting that everybody does leverage video?
You got to decide what's comfortable for you,
right?
Okay. And let me, this is a good segue. Let me come back to talk about the boosting versus not boosting.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I don't want to leave that hanging. And, if you have the knowledge and the budget, I say, yes, go forth and use Facebook Ads Manager. So the difference is boosting is just kind of built in to the Facebook interface and the Instagram interface. And it takes a few clicks and, off it goes. Facebook Ads Manager is a massively robust tool that was built to take millions of dollars of advertising away from TV stations where they had all of this data. So it's this unbelievable advertising platform. I often get asked, because my YouTube channel is 5-Minute Social Media, hey, do you have a 5-minute video on how to learn Facebook Ads Manager? And I usually say, well, I can teach you how to lose a bunch of money in 5 minutes, but I can't teach you Facebook Ads Manager in 5 minutes. And so when people say never boost or boosting never works or whatever, I can share numerous case studies of when boosting has, a $40 boost has netted $4,000 in revenue and things like that. But so the idea that it never worked, like most always and never statements, they're not completely true. If you have a choice, you know Ads Manager, by all means use it. But a lot of the times the people that are shouting the loudest, you have to use Ads Manager, never boost, are usually wanting to run your ads for you, or they're wanting you to buy a course about Facebook ads. And so there's kind of an underlying motive there. Now, what I suggest, though, similar to what you said, David, is that spending money is not going to solve your problem of things that aren't already working. If your posts are reaching 500 people and nobody's buying, nobody's a lead, nobody's becoming a client, spending money to reach 5,000 people is not going to fix that problem. It doesn't work that way. But if you're reaching 500 people and you're getting 10 solid leads a month from that, well, then theoretically spending money to reach 5,000 people would magnify that. Now, the people you're reaching wouldn't necessarily know you quite as well yet, so there might be a warm-up period. So you may not go from 10 to 100 leads. But again, if what you're doing is already working, boosting just gets that same thing that's working in front of more people, and that's when it can be effective.
Okay. So now, so what is our conclusion on this then? Both can work, I guess. Is that what we're trying to say with boosting and the paid ads?
If you're not ready to dive into Facebook Ads Manager, you're not ready to hire somebody to run Facebook ads for you, whatever it might be, boosting is a way to reach more people. And there are other reasons too. In real estate, I have people that I've worked with where they just boost so that it looks good for their client. They've got a listing and they put $100 behind the open house post, knowing that it may not get people to the open house, but it gets 140 likes. And then the client goes, wow, you're great. Thanks so much. It's just an optics thing. There are different reasons for that. But if you are going to dive into Facebook Ads Manager, great. But it's a big undertaking. And I know how it all works. I still call friends that work in Facebook Ads Manager all the time, sometimes going, hey, can you look at this? Because it's just it's a beast. Yeah, it's a beast. That's
like, when you talk about split campaigns and lookalike audiences and loading up lists and creating different things, there's a lot to do there. And then understanding, what does it mean by reach versus engagements versus, clicks and views. And there's a lot there. That's why people charge money to run that thing. But when we go back to what you and I are talking about, this is more about how are you making people feel? What are you doing to create engagement? And we just talked about those 3 different ways of utility content, entertaining content, and inspirational content. So now that I know the 3 types of content, the question becomes, where am I posting it? Am I putting it on my business page? Am I putting it on my personal timeline? Where should I be posting this? Where am I focusing each day? Am I doing it on both? Am I posting it on one place and sharing it to the other? Because I've seen people do that before.
Yeah. Well, I'm big on picking one platform and really, really focusing on it.
Okay, but does platform mean Facebook, or does it mean Facebook business page or Facebook timeline?
Like when you're starting out, or if you're regrouping because nothing's working, it means even one part of it. So it could be your Facebook personal profile. It could be the business page. It could be a Facebook group.
Okay.
And if you want to have a couple of those, that's fine. But as we talked about, the Facebook business page, unless you focus on it and go all in and maybe even spend a little money to reach people, it's probably not going to work. And that's okay. I talk to a lot of agents where they make their Facebook business page look great, professional. They send people there to leave reviews, and they don't post. And they may even have a post pinned at the top that says, hey, so glad you're here. I would love to book a complimentary call with you, whatever you want your call to action to be, and if you want to see what I post, by all means, send me a friend request on my personal profile or follow me on Instagram or something like that. Like, you make it clear that you didn't abandon this. What people do sometimes when they stop using a social network is it looks like they went out of business, right? The last tweet was in 2009.
Well, that's the thing, right? You want to keep things looking fresh.
Right. But if on Twitter and on Facebook, you can pin a post to the top. And that way you can kind of explain like, hey, this isn't where I focus a lot of my time, but by all means, hit the message button and I'll absolutely reply. They know you're busy, or they hope you're busy, because if you're not busy, then you're probably not, if I'm not busy, I'm not good at my job, right?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I've said that to people, we're going online to check you out and find out who you are. So you certainly don't want to have your last blog post from the summer of 2019. It looks like it's dated, and I'm probably not coming back to see more. The same way, you and I talked before we got on air about our YouTube channel, the fact that we do have consistent videos going up every single week at the same time.
Yeah.
So our viewers, our listeners know when to expect it and start to get into a rhythm of when we're going to be posting on that front.
But for Facebook business pages, a lot of people have just gone, okay, that's not worth my time. But they set it up because we've probably all seen the looking for recommendations feature on Facebook, right? A friend of yours says, looking for a home remodeler, looking for a bike shop. And so I like, to say, if you're going to you should have a business page as an agent, and get reviews on there and make sure that it looks nice, so that when, my friend Jill, says looking for a real estate agent, and I send them your name, maybe even tag your page in the post, like, Jill trusts me. I've just recommended you. It's your deal to lose at this point, right?
Okay.
So when they click on your page, make sure it looks professional, it's up to date. You've got a next step you want them to take, book a free call or download a guide, or send me your home parameters and I'll generate whatever you want them to do. And then again, when they land there, hopefully you've got 10 plus 5-star reviews waiting for them too.
Right. Okay, so now let's go back, because when I asked you that and you said, well, it all depends on whether you're starting out or you're trying to revamp. Let's assume for a moment that I've been on Facebook for a while. I've got an account, but I've never really been that active. And I know I should be. I know I should be doing more. And I now know the 3 types of content. And now we're talking about the fact that the business page isn't getting a ton of traction. It's not really getting out there to people. And I mean, yes, I could post something up today and I could hit boost, which can get it to more. But like we also said, that if you're not getting engagement, it doesn't matter if you boost it, you're still not getting engagement. So I'm listening to this episode today and I say to myself, okay, I really want to roll up my sleeves and I want to do something with what I learned today. I understand those 3 types of content. I understand we're trying to pull on the heartstrings and make people feel an emotion. If I wanted to start today, would my first post go out to my personal timeline then?
Well, so one of the things that I teach is about social media goals. And This is something that I would, in my estimation, 95% of the businesses worldwide miss. And they set a social media goal that doesn't bring any revenue. So, you'll say, hey, what do you, and I've spoken at real estate events, and, there's a lot of this kind of thing. What's your social media goal? Oh, I try and post 3 times a week.
Okay.
And that's more of a to-do list, right? And it's not my social media goal is to get more leads. Well, that's good, but that's more of a business goal. You could even call it a marketing goal. But what I want to challenge you to do is pick a social media goal that will actually bring you revenue if you reach it. And so, for example, in real estate, my goal would probably, if I went out and got my license and decided I'm going to be a real estate agent, my social media goal would be to build and maintain relationships. I want to build all of these relationships. I want to stay top of mind, and I want to build a referral network so that in 5 years, I don't have to work as hard for every lead, right? And so that's where you want to start. That's
beautiful, because the goal of Mindshare is to help people work easier, spend less, and make more.
Yeah. And it takes time. You don't start off and you say, hey, I'm a brand new real estate agent. Who's got referrals for me? And they come flooding in. And so if my goal is to build and maintain relationships, because that I know brings me business. That's why that's my goal. If my goal was to post 3 times a week, I could post 3 times a week, never get any business. If my goal was to show people my or my goal was to post my listings on Facebook, I could post my listings all day, never get any business. There are Instagram accounts with 1 million followers that haven't been able to monetize. And so that's where it's really important to set a goal. So for me, if I'm doing I like to do what I call 30-second marketing plans. So if I was starting out as a real estate agent, or if social media wasn't working for me and I was sort of starting over, even if I'm a 15-year agent, but my social media's never worked, I would be doing the same thing. Okay, my goal is to build and maintain relationships. Okay, how do I do that? What happens before that? Well, I have to get into conversations with people. Okay, what happens before that? Well, I have to post things that start conversations. Okay, so what happens before that? Well, I have to come up with ideas for posts that start conversations, which is the engagement that we're talking about. So what I'm doing is I'm reverse engineering my social media marketing plan. And once you have it, it's simple. When you start, it seems very complex. But by doing this, all of a sudden, you're not trying to do 38 things. You've built this path of steps that will lead to revenue, and that's where you focus. And in my course where we talk about cutting your social media workload 50 to 80%, this is the main way that we cut it, is we eliminate all of these other things that may or may not lead to revenue. We focus on the things that do. So one of mine might be, I'm going to post on my Facebook business page content that starts conversations. And it doesn't have to even be about real estate. It could be a post about a local event in your area. It could be a post about a hobby that you have, a charity that you support, whatever it is. People start commenting. All you're looking for is a reason to start a relationship
and a conversation.
Then you start messaging with them, you build that relationship, and then eventually, you talk about what you do, and they hopefully will think of you first when they are ready, or they know somebody else who is looking to buy or sell. Another option I might do is, okay, again, the goal, build and maintain relationships. Okay, how can I do that? Well, I can go into every Facebook group in my area and just start engaging with people, just having conversations with people. And you exchange a few things. Yep. And if it goes well, then you can send them a private message afterward and said, hey, it was really great to chat with you about local motorcycle roads. I was just curious, do you have a favorite local restaurant, or, whatever? You're continuing that relationship. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was what was fun about the idea of becoming a real estate agent. And I know there's so much more than this, but talking to people about things you like is fun, right?
Well, that's what it comes down to. I mean, we talk about, making the phone calls. We talk about touching base with people, engaging on social media. And I mean, one of the things that we're always sharing to the group and to everybody out there is, post something, engage with people, like and react and comment like we've already talked about, share other people's stuff, give us context why you're sharing it, get involved. And the more you're involved with other people, the more other people are going to get involved with you.
And I think the important thing to remember is it doesn't have to be about real estate. It can be about everything, because what do you want to achieve ultimately with your circle, your sphere of influence? You want to be top of mind. So when it's time to make that decision, you're the first one they thought about. And the great thing is too, that, just by posting engaging content, you don't have to pick up the phone and make phone calls anymore. I mean, you'd be amazed after 6 months, you won't have talked to somebody at all, and they'll start talking to you like you talk every day.
Are you kidding? Everybody's talking to me about my hair lately, and I have no idea how. I haven't seen anybody. Oh yeah, I'm posting it all over social media.
Yep.
But it's fun though, right? Like, and that's the whole thing, is to have some fun with it, and again, create that engagement, create that relationship with people. So, I'm still stuck on this thing with the business and the personal page.
Okay.
Should I be, if I had a great post today and I wanted to talk about the fact that I am missing the hell out of pro sports, okay? And here's my shtick on pro sports. Should I put that up on my business page and then share it to my personal? Should I put it up on my personal and share it to my page? Or should I only put it up on one, stick to whichever one it is, and then, gauge the engagement once it happens?
The short answer is, if you wanted to post something and then share it somewhere else, you could post it on your business page and then share it to your personal profile. But when it comes back to, that's the right order to do it in to maximize your reach.
So share it on the personal.
No, if you're trying to help your business page, post it to your business page, share it to your personal profile.
Share it to your personal profile, okay.
But if you go back to your original goal of building and maintaining relationships, unless you're going to spend money on your Facebook business page, it's probably not going to reach very many people. So I would just do it on your personal profile. It's against Facebook's terms, as I'm sure you know, David, to use a personal profile for business. It is not against Facebook's terms to use a profile to build and maintain relationships. It's not against Facebook's terms to use a profile to talk about how much you love what you do. It's not against their terms to be at an open house and say, do a Facebook Live and be like, you have to see this bathroom. It's the greatest master bathroom I've ever seen. Come here. I'm going to get in the tub. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, by the way, if anybody wants to know more about this house, you can send me a message. But I just wanted to show you, look at this shower. It's got plants in it, whatever it might be. None of that violates Facebook terms. So if it were me, I would set up a business page. I would get reviews. I would make sure it looked great. And unless I was going to spend money, I probably wouldn't post on it. And then I would post on my personal profile because you're going to get way more engagement, way more reach. You can get into more groups that way. And I would do those things we just talked about, to build and maintain relationships and work backward.
Okay. That's cool. So now the next question becomes, and you sort of already broke this one down and answered this one before. How often, right? Because we're always wondering how often. And I know, oh man, like I know with Instagram, they say, every 3 or 4 days, you don't want to be there every day. And then it's like Facebook, it's like, you should be there at least once a day. And then other people are like, you should post 10 times a day. And I mean, Gary Vee tells us, it's never been cheaper. And, but like there's a mixed bag there. And the reality is it takes a lot of time and it does take a lot of effort and thinking. And I mean, you did say it, instead of posting 14 times, post one really good post, so I'm just going to re-ask the question, I guess, and see about like, how often is there a rule set around, and is there a difference between our, business page to our personal timeline, Facebook, and then, versus what we're doing with Instagram and LinkedIn? Yeah.
So the short answer, first of all, you're right. There is a ton of noise out there. And when people come to me, that's usually where, they come in, they're like, they're saying post more, post less, post in the morning. No, don't
use
post
30 hashtags, use 20 here and put 17 over there. And you can
only post about business on LinkedIn. Nobody wants to hear about your personal life. Never post about your personal or about business on Facebook. Only post about your, it's like, and none of those are universal truths. Everybody's is different. But the shorter answer to how often you should post is, how often can you come up with a quality post? And that's where I would start. Now, that being said, the quick answers beyond that on a Facebook business page, for me, I would post once a week and I would spend $7 so that it kept coming up in people's, reaching new people all week, all 7 days. If you're not going to even spend $7, then I would post 3 times a week. On your personal profile, it all comes back to how much quality content that you have, but I would probably post, at least 5 times a week. You could do, every day easily on your Facebook personal profile. Instagram
so go
stories,
ahead and post daily on your personal.
If you have good stuff to post,
right?
Otherwise, 3 times a week, I think is good. You're gonna build and maintain relationships better if you post something really great on Tuesday, and then people are still commenting, and you're still talking to them about it in the comments on Wednesday, and maybe even bleeding into Thursday. Than trying to, think of it this way. When you put up a post on Tuesday and it's still getting engagement on Wednesday, when you add another post, you are hurting one of the 2 posts because Facebook is not going to prioritize both of them. Okay. They'll either shut down your new post because your old one is getting engagement, or it will kill the engagement that you were getting on the old post to show people the new one.
Now, I've seen times, and it's not all the time, it's just whatever, but I've had times where I'll post something and it's getting great traction. A few days later, you still realize it's getting traction, but you do post something else that starts getting traction. And now you're starting to see notifications on both.
Yeah.
So they are getting so it is possible if both posts have the quality, they elicit the emotion and people are engaging. It is possible people will see both.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And odds are that the people that already saw the first one are now seeing the second one and they've engaged with that one as well. And that's called momentum. That's great. But if you put up those same 2 posts at 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on the same day, they're going to cannibalize each other.
Okay, gotcha. So just again, you want to watch for the quality and you want to watch for the engagement before you start putting up more content. You want to ensure that there's something quality there.
Yeah. And Instagram, I think, is 3 times a week is good for the feed. Anymore, I would spend that time outwardly engaging and commenting on other people's stuff. Stories is sort of the wild, wild west. You can post 5 to 7 times a day easily on stories.
Oh my God, all day, every day.
Yeah, as you said.
I mean, I look at it as stories are a very raw, fun way to be engaged on social media, to post something up, to not be scared that it's going to stay around forever. It's
Yeah.
only got that 24-hour window. But it also, it's instead of polishing it, you can literally just record it, hit go, or take a picture, put in some like funky emojis or GIFs or whatever, and like post and see you later type thing.
Yeah, it's great. LinkedIn, I think 3 times a week is a good number. But again, the power on LinkedIn is going to be engaging on other people's content. That's where that's going to happen. Twitter, the average life of a tweet is 18 minutes.
Okay.
It takes about 18 minutes for the average tweet to stop showing up in people's feeds. So
Interesting.
if you are saying, hey, Twitter's my jam, I'm going all in on Twitter. I spoke at the Agent Rise conference that Neil Mathwig puts on last year. And after I talked about focusing on one network, this woman came up with her phone clutched in her hand and she said, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm not giving up my Twitter. But Twitter's probably a minimum 5 tweets a day. And if Twitter is your thing, that's fine.
Yep.
But again, when we're talking about focusing, if it's not bringing you business, it's not work time anymore. You can't say, I don't have enough time to do social media if you spend 90 minutes a day on Twitter because you got a lead 2 years ago. That becomes your Netflix time. Do Twitter. Like Instagram stories for me, I do it because it's fun. It's my favorite platform.
Likewise.
But it's not part of my business strategy. I get business from it sometime, but it's fun. It's Netflix time.
And this is the thing. Stories is meant to be fun. So, and you just brought up a good point there. So it's time management. We talk about that a lot, right? Because a lot of times I just don't have the time for this. Hence why they want to go spend money to get somebody else to do it for them.
Right.
But it's not the answer, because one thing we keep coming back as a constant, and we've been talking about this, and the title of today was how to, reach people 100 times easier on social media. The bottom line is get involved and engage in people's posts. Would I be right in saying that? Like, we talked about the 3 types of content. That's important. We talked about how often as important. But if you're not engaging with other people, this has a much harder time of working. Would that be a correct statement?
Yeah, especially if your goal is building and maintaining relationships. And for the person that just says, "Oh, I just don't have time," that's the person that I would say, come up with one really engaging post a week, and don't tell me you don't have 20 minutes to do that, and start there and see what happens. And then you can kind of go from there. Yes, if you're trying to post 3 times a day with engaging content, you don't have time for that. None of us have time for that.
But Jerry, I'm really slow out there, and I just need to get a deal, and I got to get my social media going. I have a very hard time believing that if I post once a week, that it's going to do anything for my business. What you say to that?
It will if you again have the if you post something that's engaging, has quality, builds and maintains those relationships. This is not posting an open house. This is not saying, hey, who needs a listing agent? This is building those relationships. So the social media is not about your transactions that are closing this month. Social media is about the transactions that are going to close a few months from now. And that's where you're building for the future. As David talked about, you do the work now so that it's less work in the future. And let me share a few quick things really quick here. When you're trying to get engagement, because it's easier for me to say, ask a fun question and see if you get engagement, and you say, pineapple on pizza, good or bad? And you might get an obscene amount of engagement. That's been proven to get a ton of engagement because people are very passionate about that subject. But you're like, well, where's the lead going to come from? Well, maybe you start a conversation with one of those people, but it's hard to see when you start with that. So it does take some time. But when you're doing this, the first thing is in your posts, ask for engagement. I know that seems obvious, but it's
like
such.
What? Say what?
Ask a question.
Okay. Well, so I did that yesterday, and I put up a picture between a beautiful cottage and like a lakefront cottage and a beachfront house, whatever, a beach house on a beach, whatever. I don't know. Okay.
Right.
I put it up, and basically it was like a this or that post, right?
Right.
Which one would you prefer and why? And the comments just started popping off.
Yeah. And that's, I've seen, here, if you say, hey, here's my new listing, your most loyal friends and family might engage with that. But if you said, hey, I've got this new listing in such and such a town, which photo do you like better? And you put up 2 very different photos of the house. People will engage. They will help. They love that. So ask for the engagement. Don't be afraid to juice it a little bit with family and friends. Sometimes if you're trying something new and you can message a friend and say, hey, I just put this post up. Would you mind going and commenting? Because you say nobody likes to be the first one to a party, right? Same thing with Facebook posts. Sometimes we see a Facebook post and you're like, nobody else has commented yet. So it's okay to kind of juice it a little bit there. And then the other thing too is, be playfully controversial with things. So with your example of the beach house or the lake house, you could say beach house or lake house, which one do you want? And you could add, by the way, anyone who chooses beach house, we're not friends anymore. Winky face emoji or whatever. You're being playfully controversial because what that does is that stirs an emotion in somebody. If I take my dumb pineapple on pizza example and I say, pineapple is the worst pizza topping in the history of Earth, prove me wrong or fight me. That elicits an emotion because people are like, yeah, it is the worst. Or they will come back and go, what are you talking about? I love pineapple on pizza. You're the crazy one. And all of that is engagement. And it's so powerful when you start doing that, because when those passions are there, they get excited, they start conversations with you. And then, of course, the key is to go back and move that relationship along once you've started that conversation.
And let's be clear, we're talking about playfully controversial. Okay. Yep. So just be weary, because I know a lot of stuff is going on, obviously, in the media today. We are all very aware of everything going on. And there's people taking some very, hard stances. And again, to each their own. But as you're building a business and you're building a brand, pay attention to that.
And that's why I'm talking about pineapple on pizza and not politics.
Exactly,
or
right?
Anything
Don't
else
your
like
politics
that.
or religion.
Yeah.
So looking at the social thing, and as we begin to wrap, because I could just keep picking your brain. This is awesome stuff, and we are about to do that in our private Q&A with our Mindshare Masters. We've got a few people online. For those of you watching through Facebook, check the link. It's in the event. Click it. Join us now. Get into the Zoom room. We're going to do a Q&A with Jerry in just a couple moments. But all that being said, Jerry, I'm listening to what I got to do, and I've now learned how can I reach people 100 times faster on social. Can I build my business with only social, or are we recommending here that, hey, you still need to be using the phone and you still need to be getting together with people and you need to be supporting your social media efforts with these other relationship building, tactics, let's call it?
Well, I would never say just use social, because it's a platform that you don't own, right?
Yeah.
So I've got all of these subscribers on YouTube, but YouTube could shut down my account for some reason completely out of my control tomorrow, and it would be gone. And I'd have to start over. And, it took me 6 months to get 100 subscribers. So that would be a pretty sad day, but I'm aware of that. And so I also have a very active email list. And then I also have a Facebook group. And so that's where you don't want to build everything there. As far as the things that you need to do to grow your real estate business, it's going to depend on, it's going to be different for everybody, but I would definitely not put 100% of the things into social. But the opposite of that is I wouldn't go and spread everything too thin, in the same way that I said, don't be on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram and expect results when you only put 5 minutes into each one a day. At the same time, I wouldn't say, okay, you got to make 100 phone calls, send 100 emails, find the things that you think will work for you and really kind of focus on a few to start, because you'll get better at them and your results will get, the stuff I said about social media applies to cold calling too. Probably.
I guess that's kind of where I was going with it. So it's nice to hear the echo in those sentiments. So, buddy, this has been amazing information. Like, go figure how 60 minutes just flies like that. Thank you. The fact still remains this: most people, they don't want to put in the effort to make all this work. They don't want to put in the time. And I for one, as we talked about, can vouch for the fact that it does take a lot of time. Planning what content to post and when I'm going to post and for me personally, consistency is king. And I believe that we all know that in some way, shape, or form. So, just as we wrap now, and you've shared a ton, man, what can people do as they finish this episode right now to start showing these algorithms some love? And how can we make this process easier for ourselves? Like, if we dumb that down into like a couple sentences, sort of like that takeaway.
The first thing is, I know this is hard because you worry about, oh, well, what if a lead comes from LinkedIn? But really pick one platform, because what most of us are doing generally is we are trying to do all of the things and we're getting no results. And so if you took that same amount of time and just focused on Instagram or just focused on LinkedIn or just focused on Facebook, that's when you're going to start to see results. And then just start posting things that get engagement so you can start building those relationships. It takes time. But again, the relationships that you start today are for your closings a few months from now or next year. You're always building as an agent,
That's
right?
it, man. I love it. I love it. Buddy, where can people find you?
5minutesocialmedia.com, FIVE, socialmedia.com. Lots of other resources there. You can send me a message. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at Mr. Jerry Potter, at MrJerryPotter.
Love it. One more question before we go. What made you smile today?
This was fun.
Oh, cool. Okay. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, this was fun. I smile a lot. You know, I told you you probably overused the love reaction on Facebook.
It's all good,
but
man.
I love a lot of things. So yeah.
That's cool, man. Well, we appreciate you sharing the happiness and the smiles here with us today. The content was absolutely phenomenal. I encourage everybody, follow him on social, check out his site, connect. Jerry's got a wealth of content. I know I've been following you within our circles for some time. So very grateful to have you on with us today. So thank you once again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, David.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the 7 Ways to Communicate ebook to help you build more mindshare so you can get more market share. And I want to invite you to join our private mindshare community. We meet 2 times a month live to share ideas, tips, tricks, and do some mind sharing. All of our mindshare masters get access to our private VIP Q&A with our special guests each week. And you get daily marketing and sales tips delivered right to you. Plus, the opportunity to motivate, learn, and network with a whole bunch of like-minded people just like you, going through the same struggles in business as you, looking to achieve like you. When you're on the site, just click on the coaching option, then the group coaching, and for only $19 a month, literally like 62 cents a day, you will have access to a powerful coaching resource every single day. Seriously? Just saying 62 cents sounds crazy to me too. Make sure to check it out. Wherever you like to consume your content, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshow101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.